Have a good show, guys.
Blog Talk Radio.
Wednesday, January 19th, 2011, the first of two sessions on workforce optimization, Analytics Demystified, with special guest Bill Durr. Today, for part one, we'll focus on the employee side of things and be ready to email. When we give you the word, the first 5 people to email me will get a free copy of Bill's latest book, Analytical Workforce Optimization Demystified. If you are listening live, we invite you to be part of the show and ask questions. It's really easy. Here's how you can do it. Email at calltalk@benchmarkportal.com or chat with us on calltalk.tv. You can also ask us a question at 347-857-3117. Make sure to press the number 1 on your phone to let me know you have a question. And everyone who asks a question today through email or phone on the show will receive a free copy of Bruce's book, Benchmarking at its Best. And one person will be chosen at random to win an in-depth reality check benchmarking report valued at $1,500. And I want to remind everyone that all of our shows are archived and available to listen to at calltalk.tv any time of the day. And now I'd like to introduce the host of Call Talk, Bruce Belfiore.
Thank you very much, Brian, and welcome back to Call Talk, everyone. Today's topic is Workforce Optimization Analytics Demystified. Today we have brought in an expert on the topic for you, Bill Durr. Bill is an icon of our industry and has held a variety of sales, marketing, and management roles for major contact center vendors and worked as a consultant for centers that are challenged with meeting their performance objectives. With more than 25 years in the market, he has practical experience with most contact center technologies, including workforce management. Bill Durr serves as Principal Solutions Consultant for Variant Witness Actionable Solutions and is frequently a speaker at industry events and is author of numerous articles and white papers on contact center technology and management. He's published 4 books, speaking of which, as Brian Carrington mentioned, his most recent one, Analytical Workforce Optimization Demystified, will be given to 5 lucky listeners a little later during our live broadcast. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Bill Durr.
Well, thanks a lot, Bruce. I don't know that I've ever been called an icon.
Well, okay, we'll try not to be iconoclasts, right? Those are people who go around smashing icons. We'll put you up on a pedestal, at least for this half hour, right? This will be your 15 minutes of fame. Well, Bill, we've known each other for a lot of years. How far back do we go?
I'm not going to count the years, but I think we first met in a small town called West Lafayette, Indiana, at an early contact center conference in Purdue, at Purdue University. I think we were both much younger. I'm not necessarily certain we were any wiser.
Oh, yes, the wisdom of age. Well, as I recall, your title back then with Blue Pumpkin was Chief Evangelist, and you were speaking, or Bill, maybe I should say preaching at all the industry events. As far as I remember, lightning never struck you down, so I guess you must have been telling the truth.
Well, it's true. At Blue Pumpkin, I was given the title Chief Evangelist, and I took it really quite seriously. And Blue Pumpkin was an interesting company in its time, well ahead of the thinking of most vendors serving the contact center. So I got involved with workforce optimization pretty much at its inception through Blue Pumpkin.
Okay, good. At its inception, huh? Okay, so you're the father of workforce optimization.
Oh, no. I want to disabuse that right up front. I don't claim the paternity of workforce optimization. Smarter people than I were involved in its creation. Actually, Bruce, the name workforce optimization was not conjured up by any vendor whatsoever. It was some of the big industry consultants and gurus, the Gartners, the Saddle Tree Researches, the Frosts and Sullivans. They began to see that standalone, disparate solutions that had typically been employed in contact centers were beginning to be integrated and unified, and it wasn't being driven by the vendors. It was being driven by the customers, the people who run contact centers, because they were simply tired of dealing with all these different applications, different databases, different versions of the truth.
Yeah, so in fact, it's something that's really gotten around quite a bit, and as you say, it's driven by those centers in particular who want to get better and sort of push the envelope on things. Well, in fact, does a contact center start with a particular element of workforce optimization, or can you give us a little bit of your idea of how it all begins?
Well, sure. These days, I should point out the term workforce optimization continues to evolve. It's a living, breathing subject area. So these days, workforce optimization includes applications like call recording and quality monitoring and workforce management. Those are maybe the cornerstones. But it also includes applications that sometimes you don't ordinarily find in contact centers, but you probably should. So like scorecards, performance management, e-learning. And then some of the really new hot technologies that are creating quite a bit of buzz in the industry: customer feedback management, speech analytics, text analytics. And we're going to be talking about those customer-focused elements of workforce optimization next month when we do part 2. So for most contact centers, they get involved with workforce optimization when they make a decision to do call recording and quality monitoring, or when they make a decision to do forecasting and scheduling.
And many of those in the first category you were talking about don't necessarily think of it that way, do they? They think they're just doing quality. The people in the scheduling side think that they're just sort of optimizing, rear ends and seats. But we're really talking about something different here, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, because I see that contact centers kind of go through a kind of a learning evolution about these tools and applications, and it makes really, I think, fundamental good sense for people to focus on the quality monitoring process, and for people to focus on the forecasting and scheduling process, because those applications, those processes are not really very simple, and the more you focus on them, the better you become at doing them. That said, what we began to see, what the Gartners and the Frosts began to see, is that these silos, these functional silos inside contact centers, while they're a good thing for a while, ultimately they become roadblocks to continued improvement in performance. Because of what you just said. The people in quality monitoring just are solely focused on that, and they really don't, maybe care is too harsh a word, but they don't seem to care about the other elements of what's going on in the contact center. The same can be said for people in forecasting and scheduling. They're mostly concerned with getting the forecasts right and making sure that people adhere to the schedules that they generate, and they're not really concerned with some of the other things. So the silo approach ultimately becomes an anchor on the good ship call center.
Okay. Yeah, no, it kind of holds things back. I can see that absolutely. Where if you put a lens on okay, we're talking about workforce optimization, right? So it's the workforce that we're talking about optimizing. And I imagine, you're really trying to optimize their capabilities in the call center, right?
Right, and a common mistake that a lot of people make when they first start thinking about workforce optimization is that it's all about optimizing the employees, the agents. In a harsher term, it's sweating the labor force, getting more out of them. And of course, if that's what you want from workforce optimization, you can get that. But you just said it's about the workforce, and a very neglected part of the workforce are the team leaders and the supervisors right out on the production floor. And workforce optimization gives them some tools that they've never had before that really can transform their jobs, and they can really become business people instead of forgive me, I often refer to supervisors and team leaders as nannies. They're more concerned with the emotional well-being of the agents under their charge. That's a good thing to do, but they're really not business people, and they're not developing the staff the way they should.
Right. Okay. Well, let's see. I think Brian may have a question for you that's come in. So, Brian, take it away.
Okay, I sure do. And need to remind everyone once again that you can ask your questions as well. Very easy. I know we have some phone callers from Oregon and St. Louis, Missouri, to name just a few. So feel free to hit the number 1 on your phone, and we can talk off air and go over a question. Also, quite a few people logged into calltalk.tv. So right there in the chat, send me a question. I'll make sure to get that in. This one has already come in for the email. This comes from Leslie, and she asks, you have a special background in workforce management, it sounds like. So what are some of the reoccurring issues in workforce management?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Anytime you get a group of workforce management people together, there's almost always 2 issues that come up, and it's always a contentious discussion. Those issues are, what service level should we try to be attaining? And the other one, maybe even more contentious, is what goal should we set for schedule adherence? These things can be debated endlessly, but unfortunately, for very many contact centers, they don't debate these things at all. The service level goal came to them in a Chinese fortune cookie 15 years ago. Nobody's ever thought why the goal exists, or if there's a better, more appropriate goal. The same can be said for schedule adherence.
Yeah. Now, I think those are great points. And on the first, with regard to service level, the old 80-20 rule is something that's so ingrained in so many minds, 80% within 20 seconds. But, the question is why? And we sort of encourage people to look at 2 other variables. One is, how is the rest of your industry performing on those? And because let's face it, Bill, there are different expectations on service level in different industries. If I'm calling my monopoly supplier of electricity, then I might have a different expectation than if I'm calling a catalog house, where if I don't like the service I'm getting, I can put down the phone and call somebody else at the drop of a hat. And so knowing how you compare, benchmarking your service level against the rest of your industry is a really good way of setting a realistic target that makes sure that you're not overdoing it or underdoing it, but you're in line with your competition. Yeah. And the other thing is, you were talking about, the other thing is to do a correlation with customer satisfaction and say, okay, we want to satisfy our customers. We also want to make sure that we're optimizing use of our sales force our agent force, and we're not costing the company too much. Well, maybe 5 more seconds or 10 more seconds don't have any impact on customer satisfaction. Maybe it does, but you need to do those analyses to find out.
Yeah, exactly. You reminded me. Last year sometime, one of the big analyst firms released a report where they were working with a big wireless telecommunications provider, and what they did was they did callbacks, phone surveys to callers into this wireless telecommunications company, and they were simply asking them about their queue experience. And what they found out was a little bit shocking, but it was to your point. When the caller got answered almost immediately, they experienced a little higher satisfaction than otherwise. But when they got put into queue, what was interesting was the goal that they had set for themselves could have been extended by several multiples without impacting customer satisfaction negatively at all. And so the analyst company turned around to the wireless telecommunications provider and said, look, it's great that you set this service level goal for yourself, but you're not buying yourself any satisfaction from your customers by struggling to meet it. You can back off save yourself some money and give up nothing in terms of customer satisfaction. And more companies should take a look at that very value proposition, and the information that they need to look at is in their call abandonment reports.
Yeah, that's right, because those people who get frustrated are going to abandon, and that's an excellent way. If you start getting those abandon rates above 5% or whatever it is in line with your industry, then you're not hitting it. But if you're not getting that, then why pay for your Cadillac service when something a little bit less will make people just dissatisfied?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, great points, and one that I can see there being these discussions internally. I've seen them myself, and oftentimes going on and on. We looked at one report that included the metric, service level, et cetera. It was kind of hard to read the report, so we asked about, why this report was being done and why people were following it. And they said, well, Dave asked for that report. Well, can we talk to Dave about it? Well, Dave retired 5 years ago. And I think that one of the points that's in what you were talking about, Bill, is it's always a good time to do spring cleaning on reports and on the metrics, taking a second look at the metrics you're actually following to see if you're gathering them the right way and you're using them the right way. So
exactly.
Work optimization, I'm sure that's something you see all the time.
Sure do.
Yeah. Good. Ryan, we've got another question.
Yeah, and actually this is in line with what you guys were just talking about regarding industry data. This one comes from Edward, and he asks, where can we access industry data to benchmark within like companies?
I bet you could answer that, Bruce.
That's right. Well, it's Edward, it's something that we've been doing for 15 years now, and be happy to help you out there. We do, with the Center for Customer-Driven Quality, which was founded at Purdue, we were able to provide the basic benchmark studies without cost. And that's one way that you can get these metrics. And it is very valuable to have them because we oftentimes meet people who are getting pressure from their higher-ups to meet certain standards that are not realistic or not even necessary in the best interest of the company. And so by looking at your competition through benchmarking, you can get a better idea of where you stand. So we'd be happy to help you out with that, Edward. Right up our alley. Did you want to add anything to that, Bill?
Well, I'm a big believer in benchmarks, external benchmarks for things like service level and cost per call and things of that nature, that those kinds of metrics are kind of transportable between companies and even sometimes across vertical industries. I also am a pretty big believer in internal benchmarks. So, one of the questions I see contact centers struggle with is, well, how much performance can we rationally expect from one of our employees? And I think maybe you can't look outside the company for an answer to that kind of a question. You need to look at your employees. You'll see a range of performance. You'll see some superstars. You'll see the vast average middle, and then you'll see some people who appear to be struggling. And so the internal benchmark comes from those superstars. They're doing your work. They've gone through your training. They're achieving a high performance level. That's a good, useful internal benchmark for agent performance.
And then you can get the elements to coach toward and to motivate those folks you were talking about earlier, the team leads and the supervisors in particular, to help mentor and coach people toward that higher level of performance. And by the way, just a little parentheses, if you happen to be able to include a monetary or other benefit, an advantage for the high performers, and that's a great thing too. I'll close that parenthesis. Yeah. Good. Brian, do you have another question?
I sure do. All right, this one comes from David, and he asks, what's different about quality management in a workforce optimization environment?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Tough one, yeah.
Yeah, so within a workforce optimization infrastructure environment, if I can string all those words together, we have this notion of a performance management scorecard. One of the reasons why workforce optimization is predicated on all the applications being very, very tightly and deeply integrated has to do with this scorecard. And so all the applications are dumping information into the scorecard. And this really transforms the coaching process because the supervisor or team leader can sit down in their cubicle, bring in the agent that they want to coach, bring up the agent's scorecard, discuss how they're performing against key performance indicators for which goals have been established, how they're performing against those goals, and have, I think, much more relevant, much more meaningful conversations about performance. And then the magic can really happen. You have to see it to really appreciate it and believe it, but you can actually click a button on the scorecard, and up will pop up a list of recorded conversations for that agent. And I've seen this done. The supervisor can turn to the agent and say, pick one of those and let's listen to it together, and I'll go through how I scored this, and you can see up close where you are doing well and where you have room for improvement. The immediacy of that kind of thing in a coaching environment really changes the coaching experience for both people tremendously.
Yeah, and Bill, there are those situations where on top of the opinion of the supervisor or the QA person, there's also the input from the customer themselves or the caller themselves, so that you can add the way that call was rated by the customer and right down to the agent level. So the agent can actually see the scoring of the customers on specific calls. Is that something that you've also witnessed?
Exactly, and it kind of illuminates a bit of a problem with quality monitoring. Everybody understands quality monitoring is kind of an internal process. And what you just talked about, adding customer feedback to the process, transforms it, because whether or not it was really a quality interaction, I don't think can be determined by anybody in the company. It can only be determined by the customer. And so customer feedback taps into that direct commentary from the customer, and then you can correlate it back to what the internal quality monitoring team is doing. And so I pose the question often, if a bunch of customers said, Bill the agent is really fantastic and I love interacting with him, but the internal quality monitoring team seems to think that Bill the agent is only mediocre at best, who do you believe?
That's right. Yeah. Believe the customer. The customer is always right.
Exactly. And so it's time then for the quality monitoring team to stand back and take a look at the things that they're judging agents on and reconsider whether they matter to customers or not.
In fact, one of the things that we have advised some centers to do is to divide the quality function conceptually as well as functionally into two parts. One is soft skills, customer perception type of stuff, and on the other hand, adherence to to process procedures and whatever the company line is on the other side. And the first is an area that you can entrust to the customer to figure out and to score you on. And as long as you have some sort of a system, which can be an immediate email system or a post-call IVR system or something that will get you back reliable data quickly right down to the agent level, then that's what the customer is good for. And the nice thing, Bill, they'll do it for free. I mean, you have to put in the system, but you'll have a certain percentage of people who will agree to take these surveys. Certainly not the majority, but a significant minority should be able to do that. And on the other hand, the internal QA people can concentrate at that point on the adherence to policies, procedures, the correctness of the answer, as opposed to things like friendliness or other attributes that are best figured out by the customer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And what some organizations are starting to confront is the fact that, the agents are following the policies and procedures as established faithfully, but these policies and procedures are customer hostile.
Yeah.
And that's a very good thing to understand and find out, because in this day and age, being customer hostile is probably not a good strategy.
No, bad strategy. And actually, that term, customer hostile, I mean, we obviously have user-friendly. This is just the opposite, and unfortunately, we do see those procedures in places. And sometimes it's as easy as people inside the call center looking at that feedback and talking to each other and coming up with, you know what, we could be doing it this way instead of that way. Okay, let's do it. We've seen that many times too. So
I was once on a conversation with an agent and a problem. I won't identify the company. They said, "I'm sorry, I can't fix your problem, but I am authorized to apologize."
I like that. Can I use that term?
I like it too.
My next speech. Brian, you have another question for us?
Yeah, I do. That's going to be hard to follow that up. I like it too. Okay, this comes from Rosemary, and she asks, is there an application within workforce optimization that isn't appreciated enough?
Well, yeah, I think there is. I'm not sure my colleagues would agree, but I think it's the scorecard application. And it's because probably we've chosen the word scorecard, and that brings connotations into everybody's mind because we all went to school. And we all got report cards. And it was just, occasional feedback once in a while, every 6 weeks or a couple of times a year, whatever the case was. And I don't know about you guys, but my report cards weren't all that good, so it was always a traumatic event when I brought it home.
I don't believe that.
No, it really was. But I kind of already alluded to this. The scorecard application inside WFO is way more than just a report card. It actually is a frontline management tool that allows them to coach their employees more effectively, and also to understand what's going on in the contact center at large, what's going on a site basis, on a team basis. It becomes an analytical tool in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it provides that information that oftentimes is, people are in the dark, both managers and agents themselves, with regard to what's going on and how they're doing. And it just sort of brings a lot of good transparency to the whole situation, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. So many contact centers are, they churn through the reports and process them, and so the information they get about what happened is, last week's information. So I kind of make an analogy that trying to run a contact center with this retrospective look all the time, sometimes a week or a month into the past, is like trying to drive down the freeway with your windshield papered over and you're only using your rear view mirror.
I do that all the time. So, I think that, having the information right down to the level of the person who's expected to turn out the performance is so important, because we've seen that, if they are given the information, then they know what they need to improve on. And it just it empowers them, and at that point they know what they need to do to get better, and in certain cases to make more money as well. So, great.
I agree, Bruce. In the absence of feedback, appropriate, timely, consistent feedback, most people are going to assume that their performing a little bit above average unless they have psychological issues.
Right. No, that's a good point. Well, listen, on that note, we've the half hour has just flown by, and I want to thank you, Bill, very much. Bill Durr, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, to hear your speeches, and to read your books. And with that, I'd like to also thank our listeners and hand things back to Brian for the wrap-up.
Thanks, Bruce. And once again, Bill, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to the next session with you, so that'll be really exciting. Now, for the listeners, remember when I mentioned we were going to give away 5 of Bill's book, Analytical Workforce Optimization Demystified? Well, now is the time. Here we go. The first 5 people to email me with the topic line of WFO will be the winners. So send it to brian@benchmarkportal.com, and please include your shipping address so we can get you those books. Now, this is new. I was just authorized to offer a 50% discount to our workforce management course in Las Vegas, January 27th and 28th. Now, if that would fit your schedule and something you want to do, be the first person to put class in the topic line, and you'll get that one, brian@benchmarkportal.com. So good luck. Keep in mind, this giveaway is for our live listeners only. Now, time to give away the free in-depth reality check to the one listener who asked a question today, and that one goes to Edward. All right, congratulations, Edward. Send us an email, and I'll contact you and let you know how you can take advantage of the free in-depth reality check. Now, I want to thank everyone for listening in. It's been a very good show, and also definitely don't forget to sign up. We do have a free reality check benchmark report just to get an idea of how your call center compares to others in the industry. And our in-depth reality check benchmark report takes a much deeper dive into call center metrics and is free. And again, Edward, you're the one today. So from all of us here at Benchmark Portal, asking you to keep those headsets steady and your fingers ready. This is Brian Carrington signing out. Have a great day.